I want to welcome everybody to hands-on video storytelling, detecting the pattern of a film story. We have our guest speaker today is Misha Tenebaum. Um, Misha is the CEO of Edit Stock and Edit Mentor. Before launching his companies, Misha worked as an assistant editor on TV shows and films, including American Horror Story, Jobs, and Wayward Pines. Universities worldwide use footage from Edit Stock and Learn with Edit Mentor, which is a revolutionary new training tool for visual storytelling. And with that, I would like to welcome and turn it over to Misha.
What's up, everybody? You guys have lucked out because you are participating in the best presentation today, certainly. And because there's only 10 of us in here, you're welcome to jump in with questions. You can just, I don't know if you have this ability, but you can unmute yourself and just ask a question, or you can raise your hand or ask a question in the chat and we'll be right with you. I don't like looking at, I prefer a lot of interaction, so feel free to join in. If you're a teacher, please write so in the chat. Let me know how many teachers are participating. And before I dive into, what makes this presentation so special, actually, I'll tell you, what makes this presentation so special is it's interactive. You're going to actually get your hands on something and do it. You're not watching a video of me presenting. So if you thought you were just going to coast by, get ready because you're in for something special. So if you can, do me a favor and visit editmentor.com. And I'm just going to share my screen and share with you how to do this. Press the login button. And under the username, I'd like you to write the word demo plus. Okay, first, you have to use Google Chrome. This is the only way that this works. You have to use Google Chrome. Press demo plus, and then any number between 1 and 800. So I'm going to use the number 295 at editmentor.com. And for the password is demo edit mentor with a capital D and a capital E. And I'm going to leave this up for a minute as I tell you about my background. When you're there, let me see if I can see the chat while I'm doing this. Okay, we have at least one teacher here, so that's good. At least two teachers here, that's good. Okay, again, demo, any number, you have to use the plus, demo plus any number between 1 and 800 at editmentor.com, and the password is demo editmentor. And log in when you're ready. You can save or not save the password. You're going to be allowed to use Edit Mentor for the rest of the week. Now, right now, we've only got one lesson in there, which is the presentation. But after this presentation today, because I wanted to focus your attention, I will load in a bunch of other lessons. So if you enjoy your time on Edit Mentor today, you can use it for the rest of the week with 10 or 11 other lessons. Okay, when you've logged in, let me know by either raising your hand or saying something in the chat. And while that's going on, I'm going to introduce myself. And if you need any help, Paul is here to help you as well. Okay. A little bit about myself. I am a former editor and assistant editor, and these are some of the projects I worked on. The Jobs movie with Ashton Kutcher, which played at Sundance. I was on the first season of American Horror Story as an assistant editor. On Jobs, I was an additional editor. On Immigration Tango, which won a bunch of film festivals like the Boston Film Festival, I was the editor. On Wayward Pines, I was an assistant editor. On Quarry, I was the assistant editor. And in both cases, I was following an editor that had edited a lot of cool stuff, including Glee, which is where we met. I was on American Horror Story, but whatever. Anyway, after doing that work, I left to found the company Edit Stock, which sells unedited movies. And now I founded the company Edit Mentor, which is software, and that's what we're about to use. I think sometimes students are interested in the journey. So after high school, where I really loved TV production and was in TV production classes a lot, like many of you, I went to Georgia College and got a broadcast journalism degree. And after college, I went to a vocational school in California where I learned how to use Media Composer, which is Avid, and some other tools like Final Cut Pro. And I just stayed in California and I've been stuck here ever since. Okay, and the reason that I bring up these two movies is, one, we got into Sundance and Immigration Tango won the Boston Film Festival. I'm now a screener for the Austin Film Festival, one of the largest in the country, where I watch professional movies and judge them and see if they advance to the next round, although I don't ultimately pick the finalists in the movie. There's something like 15 or 30,000 submissions, and they take 20 total. So I'm one of the filter people. And of course, I'm a judge at STN. In fact, right before this presentation, I was judging the Crazy Eights competition. So you should pay attention to me, and we have some student films to share. Okay, hopefully it's Valentine's Day, and I'd like to share with you all that my wife is 20 weeks pregnant. And this is our baby's foot right here. And this is what our baby looks like. And we get to see her tomorrow. Tomorrow is halfway. So she's on her way to meet us, and I'm really excited.
Misha, we do have a question. I'm going to allow Matthew to ask his question. Matthew, you can talk.
Seem to be muted there still.
Oh. He needs to unmute. Matthew, you need to unmute yourself.
All right, unmute one more time and go ahead. Still muted.
Actually, still Matthew, you could type your question in the chat as well.
Let me see if I can unmute you. I don't think I have that superpower.
No, neither do I.
You were unmuted for a second, so you pressed some button. Okay, until that question gets asked, I'm going to carry on. Okay, guys, I don't have a ton of time, and the lesson actually could take longer than the 30 minutes. So here's what you should do. You see probably one icon here, and when you hover over it, it says View Lessons. Go ahead and press View Lessons. And then you'll see one tile here. It says Presentation, Detecting the Pattern of a Film Story. Press Start. And go ahead and press Start and stop when you get to this screen. You asked us to raise our hand when we got in the editing software. Okay, got it. So you're in the editing software. That's great. Okay, so now we're all hopefully on this screen, and what I want to describe to you is, movies can be made in a lot of different ways. I'm going to press Start the Lesson, and on the right side here, we have this panel that has a bunch of information in it, and I'm going to walk you through that information, and then we're going to answer some questions together. So I watch literally 500 movies a year that are 500 student films a year. So like, how is that even possible? Well, I'm doing 39 Crazy Eights movies today, and then a bunch of silent films tomorrow. And then later I'm gonna do, 100 films for the Austin Film Festival. And when I review movies to see if they end up on Edit Stock, I review hundreds of movies. So one of the things that I've learned is that all movies, they might have different plots. The plot is the stuff that happens, like literally what the characters do. But what they all need are these essential elements. And the essential elements are, we need a main character. I know that sounds silly, but oftentimes students have difficulty showing the audience who the main character is. I'm going to give you an example of that in a minute. So we have to have a main character. The main character has to want something, to get something, to do something, to become something. They have to have a goal, and that goal has to be important to the main character. And then it has to be difficult for the main character to get that thing. It can't just be so easy. You can't just want something and then all of a sudden have it. You know, that's the whole journey of a movie. So in that framework, we can have a lot of different ways of getting there, but we need to have those elements. And I'm going to start with a professionally made movie called City Lights. So City Lights is a silent film, or basically a silent film. It has music and stuff, but only a little bit of dialogue, almost no dialogue. And I'm going to play the first scene for you, and we're going to analyze the scene. So I'm just going to press, this is a timeline, just like one you're familiar with. You don't need to know anything about editing or have ever tried editing software to know, to be able to follow along. Yes, you can press start the challenge. Go ahead and press start the challenge. And I'm going to watch this scene, which is 1 minute and 20 seconds. And you're all allowed to watch it on your computers or just watch my screen. Okay. I'm just, okay. I'm just asking Paul here to help me out by sharing the login details with anyone who's just joined us. So, and just also remember, you're going to have access to this presentation after the presentation. So you can do this tonight, you can do it tomorrow, you can just follow along and watch in any way you want. Okay, so we have a main character, and that main character is Michael. And what is it that Michael wants? You can just click on this triangle here, this glowing triangle, to pop up the question. So what's the scene objective? What is the thing that he wants? Does he want to finish drinking his coffee? Does he want to talk to the female character, Amita? Or does he want to keep his job? So I think it's pretty clear he wants to talk to the female character. All right. Now there's an obstacle. What is the thing that stops him from talking to Amita? Why can't he? Is it he himself? He gets too nervous? Is it that he can't speak English? Or is it that he has that Amita has a boyfriend? And I'm going to tell you, between these two, a lot of people are going to pick he can't speak English, and that is partially correct. That's one of the answers. But whenever you're looking for the obstacle, almost always it ends up being an emotional thing. And the reason I say that is because just because he doesn't know the language, does that literally prohibit him from trying to speak to her? You know, is that really the only reason he doesn't? No, the real reason is because he got scared. You know, he got a little nervous around her and he sort of ran away. And the way that we know that, that was the obstacle is the way that he reacts to it. So it's always in the reaction. And the reason I say that is because this would not be a movie or a story if he just didn't speak English, sat down next to her and tried to talk to her and everything worked out hunky-dory. there has to be his reaction to it that is changing, that is shaping the story. So what happens? He leaves the coffee shop, and I'll press OK. And I'm just going to submit my answers here. And on this answer screen, you can read about why it's right or wrong. Yes, that's right. Michael's actions reveal he's interested in talking to her. And if you're a little confused about where these answers lie, you can press View All Possible Answers, and we can click on any of these, and we can read, he can't speak English. This is a good assumption and partially correct based on the story facts presented in the scene. That could explain why he becomes nervous. So maybe he becomes nervous because he can't speak English. But ultimately, the reason he doesn't talk to her is because he's nervous. Everybody with me so far? Okay, I'm moving on to the next question. You can move on with me. And tell me if I'm going too fast or too slow in the chat, or just right. Give me a little feedback so I know. Trying to get through everything we have in store for you today. So again, stories are a pattern. So we have information. That's the stuff that happens. You guys can think of it as the plot. Okay, something happens to him, and then we run into an obstacle, and then there's a reaction to the obstacle, and the pattern starts all over. New information, new obstacle, new reaction, new information, new obstacle, new reaction. And we keep going through this pattern over and over and over again until we get to the end of the story, when we find out if the main character achieved their goal or not. And just judging by the entries that I've seen so far in the Crazy Eights, one of the things that students never do or rarely do is tell us if the main character got the thing that they wanted or didn't. So I'm actually looking for that. Don't leave me on a cliffhanger. Leave me knowing what the answer is. Okay, I'm going to press start this challenge. And this one's a little tougher, guys. There's no triangles. In this one, you have to press the plus button to add a marker. You can move this marker around, or you can hover over it and delete it. And what I want you to do is watch the scene and place a marker on the shot that is the obstacle of the scene. What is it that prevents Michael, our main character, from getting the thing that he wants? So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the scene and just play it. This is 1 minute and 10 seconds. Okay. So we have a main character, that's Michael, and he has a goal. What's Michael's goal, guys? What's Michael's goal? Michael's goal is talking to Amita, and we learned that in the last scene, right? And now we get some new information. So let's talk about what is information. Okay, so some time has passed, and we've got these two office buildings, and Michael's in one of them, presumably. And here he is, he's doing, now look at this chart here. This looks like a pretty mundane job that he has. Every, hour or whatever, he's checking a box. So it's kind of, and he doesn't look like he's so excited about it until Here comes his goal. This is the object of his quest. And she works, that's what this wide shot teaches us. She works in the building next door. All right, Michael's getting excited about it. He's got a new chance. We have new information. He's got an opportunity to go talk to her. But that opportunity is met with a new obstacle. And before I play the rest of this scene, I'm going to ask Paul, if you've been listening and if you have your mic, what is the new obstacle? What is it that prevents Michael from walking across the street and talking to Amita?
I'm guessing we just saw that with the security camera watching him leaving the building.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I'm going to, actually, I shouldn't tell you if you're right. What I should do is place a marker on the shot, because that's what our students are going to do. And I'm going to ask you a question, another question, Paul. What happens now? We don't know, we, the audience, don't know what the security camera means yet. We have some assumptions about it. So what are some things that you would assume about seeing the security camera just from seeing it and his reaction to it?
His reaction is that it's monitoring his movements, and he's not going to be happy if they catch him leaving the building.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We don't know if it's going to lead to him getting fired, for him getting, sent on a boat somewhere. We don't know if it means that he's going to be put on janitorial duty. Like, we don't know what the repercussions are yet. But what we do know is that for Michael, this is something that is preventing him from getting his goal. And throughout the movie, this security camera is going to increase the pressure on him, and it's going to make it difficult for him to get his goals. So, okay, now that we've introduced the pattern of a story, and by the way, we can view the answers here, and you can click around and see why it's not Amita working next door that's the obstacle. Because if he really wanted to meet her and she was just working next door, he could just walk out the door and go meet her, right? That's not the thing that stops him. The thing that stops him is the security camera, and the way that we know that is by the way that he reacts to it, which is to be sad. Okay, I'm going to go to the next challenge. And in this one, this is what I was saying earlier. This looks like a lot of text, so don't get scared. You can press start the challenge. I'm going to walk you through this, okay? A lot of students, we know that Michael is the main character, okay? We know that. You can know that from the script. You know that because I've just shown you 2 scenes, but editors need to tell the audience that Michael is the main character. And how do they do that? Well, you want to tell the story, the video, through Michael's perspective. And the way that we tell it through a character's perspective is by giving them the most amount of time on screen. We literally want them to be on screen for the most number of seconds, so that the audience can watch them the most. So I'm going to play a scene for you that's edited the way that I would see a lot of beginner editors edit a scene, okay? So this is just Michael approaching Amita from scene 1. Okay, so we know that Michael is the main character, but who has the most screen time in this scene? And I'll play it again for you. And Paul, this is a question for you. Who is it that has the most screen time?
It looks like, I forget her name. Aida?
Oh, yeah, good. I forgot to, yeah, her name's tough. Amita.
Amita.
Amita. Yeah, that's right. Amita has the most screen time. And I just want to show you what the power is of thinking like this, thinking from the point of view of who's my main character, which is something you should be asking yourself all the time. In my, on the left side of my timeline here, there's a bunch of tools, and I'm going to pick the second to the last tool and go over to this third icon here called the called the rolling trim. It looks like two arrows going in the opposite sides of two brackets facing on the outside. So I'm going to give everyone a second to find this tool and click on it. And when you do, you'll see it show up down here. Now, you'll know you're doing this right if when you hover your mouse over an edit point, you get the two arrows going one to each side. Okay? Now, this is a little tougher. You need to know, you still don't need to know a ton about editing, but you need to know a little bit about it, to find this tool, okay? So every editing software has a tool like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to extend Michael's shot, which is this first clip over here. We're going to extend it over Amita's shot by click, hold, and drag to the right. And as you do, I'm still holding my mouse. As you do, you can see Michael advancing, and I'm going to keep going all the way until what we need Amita for, which is that she notices him by looking up. Now you can see her head turning up. So I want to cut to her before her eyes move and before her head turns up. Okay, now I'm going to play the beginning of this scene, and let's see if now we're telling the story more from Michael's point of view. Okay, better. Look at this extra stuff that we're getting. See this hand right here? Look at this hand. Paul, what is this hand and his face telling you about how he feels?
Nervousness.
Nervousness, exactly. Now look, when the cut was a straight cut with no perspective, we just didn't get any of that because we were looking at it from her perspective. So when I watch this cut, the first one, what I learn is that Amita is a little bit maybe surprised, a little bit annoyed, maybe a little curious. But what I don't know is how Michael feels. And since the story is about Michael, we want to make sure that we're telling it from his point of view, which means showing him on screen more. Okay, and let's do the same thing to the tail of this edit. So she looks up, and as soon as he reaches for his bag, let's go right back to Michael on the tail side. So I'd like for you guys to all do that. And I'm going to play this again. Now, Paul, does that feel like we're telling the story from the main character's point of view a little more?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's a big deal, right? It's a game changer. Just the idea of thinking, put the main character on screen for the most number of seconds. Just if you remember nothing else from this presentation, remember that. And I'll submit my answers. And just like all questions in Edit Mentor, you can view all possible answers. And when you click on a clip, you can see the range that if you had trimmed it anywhere in this section, you would have gotten it right. And if you trimmed it over here, you'd have been partially right. Good job giving Michael more time, but you could probably extend the shot even farther. And if you want, after the presentation, don't do it now or you'll get lost. You can try again if you didn't go quite enough in either direction. Let's go to the next challenge. Okay, the next challenge is about a little topic, a little subject we like to call in the biz, ping pong editing. So why is it called ping pong editing? So City Lights doesn't have a lot of dialogue in it, but other movies do. Other movies are really dialogue driven, especially romance movies and comedies and dramas. There's a lot of dialogue usually. And one thing that happens to newer editors is they learn this sort of rule, which is generally you want to show the person who's speaking, you want to show their face. But where people get mixed up is, you know, when do I show them listening? When do I show them talking? When do I show them reacting? Right? It's like this nebulous thing, and people aren't ever sure. And I'm just going to go back to what we learned in the very last challenge, which was show the main character the most. Whenever something emotional happens, show the main character. Whenever someone says a line, let's see how the main character thinks about it. And I just want to give you an example. I'm not sure if we don't have this text in here. And in fact, I like the example so much, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. Let's say you have a main character who has a friend who's sick, okay? The main character goes to visit the friend, and the friend is in the hospital. And the film crew spent a lot of time and money on the way that the room looks, the hospital room looks. We've got a dozen nurses looking over the sick friend. We have all sorts of cables and wires and things happening. And as the editor, it's going to be really tempting to show a lot of that because that's where all the, interesting like stuff's moving around, whatever. But the story isn't about the sick friend. The story is about how the main character feels about their friend being sick. So you always are trying to tell the story through the eyes of the main character. It's okay to use the sick friend a little bit, but just remember the story is really about the main character. So I'm going to share my screen again. And this time we're going to work with a movie called Cinder Pumpkin. This is a high school romance between Max and Cinder. And Max is like the cool kid, and Cinder is, she's got the hots for Max. So let's see how their interaction goes.
Oh, damn. Before I forget, I am having a party tonight.
A party? Sounds great.
Yeah, and I was wondering, if you're not too busy, could you possibly help me out with the final as well? I'm so busy, I don't think I'll have time to do both.
Now, the name of the movie is Cinder Pumpkin, and her name is Cinderella James. So the movie is about Cinder, but who has the most amount of screen time here? Who's got the longest clips? You want to take a crack at that one, Paul? Is it Max or Cinder?
I want to throw it to the chat for a second. I want to see what people have to say. Help me out here, guys. Who do you think, Max or Cinder?
Yeah. Oh, you think Cinder's got the most? Well, Cinder's the main character, but who's got the most amount of seconds on the screen? That's my question. See these two clips? Who are these two? The longest two.
Before I forget, I am having a party tonight.
A party? Sounds great.
Yeah, and I was wondering, if you're not too busy.
I'm agreeing with the chat now. I think Max does.
Yeah, Max does, right? Max does. Now, let's think about these lines from the point of view of we're telling Cinder's story, not Max's story, okay? So I'm going to play and pause this.
Oh, damn. Before I forget, I am having a party tonight.
I am having a party tonight. So what does Cinder want to go?
A party? Sounds great.
Yeah, of course she does, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I was wondering, if you're not too busy.
Oh, I was wondering if you're not too busy. So what does she think he's about to say? What is she feeling in this moment? So it doesn't actually matter.
Could you possibly help me out with the final?
can you help me out with the final as well? So, rejection. He's not asking her to the party.
I'm so busy, you know. I don't think.
Now, do we care if Max is busy? No, we don't care if Max is busy because the story's not about him. So I'm going to change my trimming tool again to this rolling trim. And I'm going to grab Cinder's last shot and let's just move it way back, way back. Now, I like to cut where people are making eye contact with each other. So let's just pick a spot where they're making eye contact. And I'm going to play this clip.
Yeah, and I was wondering, you know, if you're not too busy, could you possibly help me out with the final as well?
Now, look at this reaction that we're getting from Cinder. She's disappointed. And we only get to learn that because we're seeing her on screen. So that's why it's so important to put the main character on screen the most.
Busy, you know, I don't think I'll have time.
In fact, I would even put her on earlier.
Wondering, you know,
If you're not too busy. And let's do it here so we can see her get really excited.
yeah, and I was wondering, you know, if you're not too busy, could you possibly help me out with the final as well?
So now we get the full reaction and we even got some of her excited part at the beginning. Look at how excited she is.
Possibly
Look at that smile.
help me out with the final as well.
Ugh, disappointment. And we wouldn't get that. We wouldn't get that if we didn't think about she's the main character. We need to show her the most. Okay, I'm going to submit my answer. And again, you can view the ranges. So I'll just click and you can see trimming anywhere here would have been right. And I'm moving on to the next challenge, challenge number 5. And we're going to use another bit from Cinder Pumpkin. And this is another common mistake that students make. And that's that the main character needs to change. Okay, the main character needs to change every single scene. So every single time they're in this pattern of information, obstacle, reaction to the obstacle, new information, new obstacle, every single scene, they need to change. Now in this scene, Cinder has been embarrassed by some of her friends at school. And Cinder's friend has come to comfort her. And she's got this obstacle to overcome, which is the humiliation that she felt in class and her big hair that happened as a result of some paint being spilled on her head. So we're going to play this scene now, and we're going to answer the interactive questions. So let's play the scene. It's 2 minutes long. And get your questions ready because I'm going to open the floor to questions.
On Facebook and came right. Oh, just something new with your hair?
No, I went swimming in a Nickelodeon logo.
How'd that work out for you?
I don't want to talk about it. I just really like to believe that after this horrible senior year is over, I can move far away and never have to deal with this again.
Is this about Max? Again? Mr. Oh, look at me. I am larger than life and twice as handsome.
You know, the worst part is there's this party tonight. And he's probably going to meet this super hot Nina Dobrev clone while I stay here getting the pumpkinness out of me. He probably thinks I'm the most ridiculous person on earth.
Oh, come on. The guy can't even spell orange. I bet he didn't even notice. Although I do think Alex may have not done himself this time. Okay, don't freak out. At the end of the day, she was briefing everyone on how they're supposed to say, "Here comes the ugly pumpkin," anytime you walk by.
What?
On the bright side, your Cinder Pumpkin video is trending on Twitter. Hashtag yay!
That's it, Tom. I can't take it anymore. I am sick and tired of Alex and of everyone treating me like I'm just a school joke. And of Max not realizing that I'm good enough for him.
What are you doing?
I'm taking my chance, Tommy. Even if I die trying.
As much as I love your spirit, Princess, he's seriously not worth it.
Of course he is.
All right, and even if he was, what about Alex and her little friends? Aren't they making your fairy tale romance hard enough as it is?
I have a few ideas. I just need to get proof that Max fell for me, and that'll get him to shut up.
What do you have in mind?
I have my eye on a certain blue shirt.
Makeover.
Okay. And we're down to 6 minutes left. So, and that's a hard out. So I'm going to answer these questions quickly. And I want to leave the floor open so I can answer some questions from the audience as we get towards the end. If you just open up this first triangle here, let's talk about how Cinder felt at the beginning of the scene. Was she, and Paul, you can help me here. Did she seem depressed to you?
Absolutely.
Was she excited?
No.
Was she frustrated?
Yes.
How about defeated?
Yes.
How about motivated?
No.
No. But by the end of the scene, when she's hatched a plan and we can see her face smiling, is she depressed?
No.
Is she motivated?
Yes.
Is she frustrated?
Not anymore.
Is she ambitious?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. Is she inspired?
Yes.
Okay. So she's gone from feeling depressed, frustrated, and defeated to inspired and motivated. And I recommend for you guys that when you're analyzing your movies, if there's a scene where the character doesn't change from the beginning to the end of the scene, you should probably take that scene out of your movie or re-edit it in a way where you're making the reactions in the beginning of the scene smaller and at the end of the scene bigger, or in some way tweak those dials, because you really want, if the character doesn't change from scene to scene, then when you watch the overall arc of the whole movie, they're not going to change. So literally every scene they need to change. Okay, I have 4 minutes left, and I'm going to say it like this. I'm officially opening the floor to questions, but I'm also going to go on to the next challenge. And before I move on, for those of you, I see we have 19 students and teachers in attendance. If you need a reminder, you will have access to this entire presentation for a week. And all of you can log in by using the, if you do not have login details, make sure you get in touch with either me or Paul. My email address is Misha, M-I-S-H-A, @editmentor.com. I'll write that down for you. It's Misha @editmentor.com. You can see up here. And the way to log into Edit Mentor, Misha @Edit Mentor. The way to log in one more time is to use the login information, demo plus any number from 1 to 800. I'm just gonna share this again. And the password is demo editor. And I'm going to post a bunch of lessons so that you can try other lessons too, not just this one presentation. Okay, I have 3 minutes left. So if anyone wants to ask a question, please do. Otherwise, I'm going to do the last question just literally till the mics get cut off and we're kicked out of here. Okay, the next question. This is our first student film. And I'm just going to tell you, if you use voiceover, don't, because using voiceover is telling your audience a story and not showing them. And I'm just going to start this challenge. This is actually a student film called Last Hope. And because I don't have very much time, I'm going to start playing from like kind of the middle of it.
This just in, earthquakes caused by the explosions in Asia and the Middle East set off another domino effect, shaking power plants all across North America, including Russellville, just 117 miles south of Fayetteville. In a minute now, the power plant could also explode.
That's when it started. Everything was normal at first.
It didn't start until a couple of days passed.
Okay, so the students have added this dip to black with this voiceover that says that's when it started. It wasn't always like this. But if you're using black and you're using voiceover, what you're not using is video, which is what a movie is. This is radio or theater, maybe, and black is certainly radio. So watch this. I can just delete this clip and just play back the same chunk.
Miles south of Fayetteville. In a minute now, the power plant could also.
Did I miss anything? You know, do I need to know? Do I need to be told like something crazy happened in the world? No, I don't. So I encourage you all to not use any voiceover. Okay, that's, I think, it for my presentation. I have 30 seconds left. I just want to tell you all what a joy it is to have used Edit Mentor, which was, of course, a dream of mine to build. It's taken a long time to put together, and I'm really excited to hear your reactions. So make sure to, give me some feedback. I love hearing from all of you. Thank you again, and have a great STN.
Thank you so much, Misha, for joining us today. And I believe, Misha, you're going to be working with us throughout the year, doing some sessions.
Always.
Is that correct? All right. So look for Misha when we announce those throughout the year. And thank you again. And enjoy the rest of convention, everyone. And we'll see you later.